If you guys watched the last video, you'll know that we got our out front V3 closed deck short block built up with the heads on it, the cams installed, everything ready to go. Basically a fully assembled long block. Now, since that episode, I've gone through and I've done some things off camera, but let's get started with it. I went ahead and got all of our PCV and our coolant crossovers done, as well as some other things. I also went through and I got the engine timed. We have our Gates Performance timing belt on this one with just the standard OEM pulleys and tensioner. The OEM system only had 30,000 miles on it, so you're supposed to replace these at 60. I could have gone and replaced it, but I decided to keep them since they were in good condition. I've already gone through and spun the engine over and everything checks out. If you're doing timing on your Subaru, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's actually pretty simple, but can screw it up if you do it the wrong way. I also went ahead and got our Killer Bee oil pan on along with the Fumoto quick drain. And then I also upgraded our motor mounts to the Group N motor mounts. This being a street car, I didn't want anything too harsh, but I definitely wanted to upgrade over the stock mounts. I also have the transmission mount on the Group N transmission mount in the car already. One of the things I did have to do on the timing cover in order to fit our new fluid damper is on the factory timing cover, there is a large lip that goes around here that protrudes out probably ½ an inch. You do have to trim that back. I basically trimmed it back as far as I could without cutting into the timing cover. But now we can take our fluid damper without dropping it. We can get it on there like that. So the next step to do on this car is to get the timing cover on and start to get both manifolds, the exhaust and an intake manifold, as well as the up pipe and the turbo on. From there, we get the clutch on and we can throw this thing into the car. Now what's cool is we can start to finally break into some of our fueling components. So for injectors, we are running AUS 1450cc injectors. This will be more than enough for our power goals on ethanol. These kind of look like 1050s though, but they are definitely 1450s, I checked. We also are running the radium rails. They're pretty much the best of the best. So that's what we're gonna be running on this setup. So I'm gonna kind of go through, get it all put together, get it on the motor, and then I'll explain how it's going to be set up for you guys. I ran the radium setup in my last STi if you guys missed that, and I was super happy with the quality and the craftsmanship on radium products. They obviously are some of the best in the game. Okay, so this is pretty much how we're going to be set up with our TGVs and our fuel rails. So on this side, we have our regulator and then our pressure gauge. I'm gonna have to clock this pressure gauge because as you can see, it hits the oil fill, but that's okay. I tried to run it over here, actually connected to the regulator, but it hits our PCV hose. So fitment is a little bit tight over here, but it's kind of nice because then I only have to run the vacuum reference like 3 inches up into the boost control or the blow off valve reference. So it'll keep for some nice line routing. Over here, this is pretty basic. It just has 2 swivel fittings on either side. I don't have these mounted down yet, but it's pretty sweet. This regulator is super compact and nice. A little bit different than the regulator we ran on the 2005 STI, but this is a little bit of a different setup with the series setup. But I think all the lines and the routing is gonna happen in a later video. So we still have a lot to do when it comes to fuel, but at least for right now, we have our rails and our injectors mounted. Next step is going to be getting our headers onto the engine. And if you saw in our last video or the video before that, I went with the Killer Bee Holy header. This is the equal length header, so we won't have that Subi rumble. But in my mind, the equal length with the external wastegate sounds just as good as the unequal length. Plus, with the equal length, we'll be getting all the added performance benefits of an equal length. But check out these headers. As usual, everything Killer Bee is phenomenal, and this is probably one of my favorite parts about this motor build. I'm gonna leave these loose for now because I know that I'm going to have to adjust them when we do our up pipe and our turbo, so they're just gonna stay loose so that we have some wiggle room. But these look so nice, especially with the Killer Bee oil pan. It's just a super sweet setup. Too bad it's under the car, no one's gonna see it, but I'll know it's there. Positioning this big of a turbo with a 3-inch inlet under the manifold is going to be extremely hard. So I hope I don't have to get spacers. I don't think I will, but that's why I'm doing this all outside of the car, because doing it inside of the car is gonna be a pain in the ass. So let's get this turbo on. If you missed the first video, this is the turbo that we're gonna be running. This is the Blausch 3.0 G2R. It spools pretty fast and it'll get us to that 500 horsepower mark. We're not going rotated on this setup, even though our block will handle it. I saw some comments on the short that I posted, people saying that a closed deck for 500 horsepower is crazy. Obviously, this motor will handle more than 500 horsepower, but 500 horsepower is our goal for this build. If you guys know anything about stock location turbos on Subarus, is they are a pain, especially once you go to that 3-inch inlet. It's basically impossible to do with the manifold on, so we did it without the manifold on. Okay, so we got the turbo and the up pipe on. It's actually horrendous because of the size of this turbo. You can tell that we are totally pinching here, but that's just how it is for this setup. I could get phenolic spacers, but I think this will work and we'll be able to get the manifold on. I'm hoping that I have enough play over on this side to get the manifold to line up, but look at that. We're starting to finally get somewhere with this motor and one step closer into getting into the car. Okay, so we got the motor fully dressed out. It took a long time just because there's a lot with the manifold and getting everything to fit with this huge inlet and this big old turbo, but everything is good to go. Now it's time to get it on a hoist and get the clutch on so we can actually get it into the car. Okay, so we got the clutch and flywheel assembly onto the motor. Just wanna say, shout out to this Company 23 flywheel locker tool. It definitely is a must for doing these clutches, especially when you have it on the crane. The motor moves around a bunch, especially when you're torquing it down. I'm sure you guys could see it. Definitely pick one up if you're doing a clutch job on your car. I also got our throwout bearing and our clutch fork back into place. So we should be ready to go to get the motor back in the car. Okay, I'm not gonna lie with you guys, I'm really struggling with this one. I had to pull the motor back out because I just simply could not get it to line up. I would get the bottom of these lined up, but I couldn't get it to sit fully onto the motor. I think part of the problem is because I think I need a longer arm on my hoist, and I was making contact with the front bumper, so I decided to pull the front bumper off. I also moved the slave cylinder, or the clutch cylinder out of the way so that I could raise the transmission up a little bit more. So I'm gonna give this one more go. Hopefully I can get it this time. The second go around on this was not good. I was just getting tired and frustrated, and I was stressed about breaking something. Well guys, I'm in quite the predicament here. I can't get this motor in. As you tell, it's a new day. I quit after the second go around yesterday and attempted to come back today and do it. And I gave it one more shot and I still couldn't do it. As you can tell, it's on the ground just because I want to take some load off of the crane because I don't know how long it's going to be sitting here for. I really hope I didn't damage anything in the process. I don't know. I'm kind of stumped with this one, unfortunately. It's really frustrating. Everything up until this point has been going fantastic. Got the motor out with not a whole lot of issues. We got the motor built with not a whole lot of issues, but I just can't get this thing in. It's not jacked up right now, but it was jacked up before. I could get it to the point where I could clear the studs on the subframe, get the studs on the motor lined up with the holes, and I could get it connected up top here. But no matter how much I played with the angles, I could not get the two to go like this. The top up here is connected, but the bottom, basically half, will not sit into place. I've tried multiple different angles of jacking the transmission up. I've tried multiple different angles with the engine. I removed the bumper so I could get the lift closer. I'm missing something. I have no idea what it is. But yeah, it's really frustrating. And I really don't want to have to take this all apart and just strip it down to the bare long block and then put it in. And I shouldn't have to because these motors should go in with everything on it. That's how they're removed from the factory. In the factory service manual, you pull it out with everything on it. I think I'm gonna call it quits for now because I feel like if I push any further, I'm actually gonna break something. I'm really hoping I didn't break something. It got caught one time and I don't know if it was the clutch. I don't think it was because I'm not seeing any like massive, like there's a couple of little scratches here, but I'm not seeing any massive damage. I feel like if it got caught in the clutch, it would have ripped this monolock collar out. The middle disc has a little bit of back and forth play. I don't know if that's normal. I didn't notice it before, but I also didn't try to move it. It doesn't play, it doesn't spin. If you look at the way an ACT Mod Twin is built, you have your spline section that is separate from your actual discs because they're sandwiched in between two plates. I wish I could show you, but the clutch is on and I Loctite everything because I didn't think I was gonna have to take it off and I didn't want the bolts backing out and I don't wanna have to take it off because I put Loctite on the bolts. But it does, that center disc does slide back and forth. I don't know if that's normal or not. I really need to figure out a solution quick. I think I'm gonna have to call in some backup because I don't want to leave this motor sitting here like this on the hoist for an extended period of time. But luckily, I didn't have to. Is that it, guys? They're just doing it wrong this whole time? Oh my gosh, finally. That should be it. Yes, sir. Oh, dude. Let's go. Okay, so one thing we want to do before we get everything kind of situated officially is want to take this. This is your clutch fork, and you want to push it in till it clicks. Like that. At least I'm pretty sure that's it. Guys, you have no idea how much of a relief this actually is to see a motor in this car. I was stressing out a lot, I'm not gonna lie. When the second go around, I couldn't get it, and then I kind of dropped the motor, I was really stressing. So, I'm happy that I got it in this time. Sometimes, man, you just gotta give it one more shot, even if you don't know you can do it. It is kind of crazy. This clutch literally feels like OEM. I drove a twin disc a while back in a V8 chassis STi and it felt nothing like this. It was actually pretty like heavy and very responsive. Like the catch point came on like that. So I don't know if that car had a different disc setup, but this clutch literally feels like a stock clutch. Like I was a little concerned when it came in here and pressed the pedal, because it should be a lot more stout than that, but it's not. And I talked to my tuner and he said that that's how it's supposed to be, and that's actually why he likes that clutch, but it feels good. Car goes into gear just fine. So we should be all good there. So honestly, the majority of the work is done on this setup. All that's really left is the fuel system and the intercooler and blow-off valve. And that's it. So we should be getting a first start fairly soon. One quick thing before I end today's video, if you want to support the channel and support me doing builds like this, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my link in below to my Shopify shop. I've got some items on there. Kind of starting to build out my brand. I mentioned it a few videos back, but if you want to support the channel, check it out in the link below. I'm tapping out for this video. I hope you all have enjoyed watching me struggle. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.